Could you please introduce yourself and tell us a little about your role at our school?
So I am Mrs Watson, the head teacher of Holyrood Secondary, which is the school in which you go to. One of the greatest jobs that I have ever had. Really excited about being interviewed today and really excited about the upcoming Interfaith week that we will be celebrating across the school.
So my name is Miss Rao and I actually teach maths at Holyrood Secondary.
My name is Miss Melville. I am an English teacher at Holyrood and I also teach RE and PSE.
Could you please introduce yourself and tell us a little about your role at our school?
Yeah, certainly. My name is Mrs McKellar and I teach social sciences, religious and philosophical studies and English as an additional language in Holyrood Secondary.
My name's Mrs Ali and I'm currently a biology teacher at Holyrood Secondary.
Can you share with us which faith community you belong to and what it means to you?
So I am a Roman Catholic. I have had a little bit of a different faith journey, I think, to a lot of people because I was raised Catholic. But as a teenager, I decided that it wasn't something that kind of fit with me at the time and I left the church. And then about 10 years later, I decided that a relationship with God was something that was going to be really important in my life. And I wanted to sort of make sure that that was something that I incorporated back into my life. So I went back to the church, and my faith, I think, is really at the root of every interaction that I have with people throughout my day-to-day life.
So I'm a practicing Hindu. What it means for me is that it's a way of life. So it's not just a religion or believing in God or following certain procedures. It is all about a way of life that happens part of my life every day.
I'm a practicing Catholic and I attend Mass down at the Oratory Tuesday, Wednesday and Friday. I also belong to the parish of St Cadoc's, which is Newton Mearns, and where I help to clean the church once a month along with my parishioners. And it's important for me to give something back to my community.
So I am part of the Roman Catholic faith. Have always been part of the Roman Catholic faith since I was born, and my parents made the decision to baptise me. So it has been a natural part of my upbringing, also a really, really important part of my life as my life has continued into communion and confirmation, and then was also married in the Catholic Church, and the faith has been part of how I do my job leading this Catholic school that we are in.
I'm a Muslim and I belong to the faith of Islam, and for me it means submission to the will of God and practicing a complete way of life.
What are some of the key religious festivals you celebrate and how do you and your community typically observe them?
So one of the key festivals that we celebrate is the month of Ramadan, and during this month we fast and observe different like giving charity, praying, and we also at the end of the month we tend to enjoy the month of Ramadan by celebrating a festival of Eid. And another religious festival that we enjoy, there's 2 Eids actually per year. The second one is if you go to Mecca, and once in your lifetime you'll do a pilgrimage, and after that the world tends to celebrate together the festival of Eid as well. So there's 2 Eids that we celebrate.
Well, religious festivals in our family and community are a huge thing. We celebrate Advent, Christmas, Easter, and it's a huge part of our family. I have a very large family and a number of grandchildren who act in the Advent and the Christmas festivals in the church. So again, it's a huge part for my children, my grandchildren, and celebrating of the Eucharist, which for us is very physical, it's tangible, and it's about sharing a meal amongst my Christian family.
That I try to celebrate every Catholic holiday, obviously the big ones like Easter and Christmas, but trying to observe holidays of obligation as well is quite important for me personally. And I think the Catholic community is one that really brings people together, and that's something that I really enjoy about my faith.
So Hinduism is a little bit complicated. There are so many gods, and every single god has a wife. So there's goddesses, and they all have their roles and responsibilities, and the gods have children. So can you imagine how many festivals we would have? Every region has their own speciality festivals that they give more importance to, and then every family has their own festivals that are important. Every family has their own family god. So you can imagine how many festivals we have in a year. If you wanted to, you could have 365 years of festivals, days of festivals, sorry. So the main ones that I celebrate is again a bit complicated because I come originally from the west of India, but my family has always lived down in the south. So we have taken on some festivals from the south of India and some that come from the region I am from originally. The main one that you're all probably familiar with is actually Diwali. Again, Diwali is celebrated on different days within that period, depending on which region you are from. So my Diwali is actually on a new moon day, which happens in a certain month. It generally comes around October or November. This time around, it comes on November the 1st. So that's a very important festival for us to celebrate the win of good over evil. And there are so many different stories and legends to go with that. There is also a festival that comes in January called Makara Sankranti. It's known as Pongal in South. It's a harvest festival when all the rice and legumes and everything are actually harvested. But it's also important because it's also when the sun moves from one hemisphere to the other. I know it's in December, the equinox, but it's celebrated in January. Then there's the New Year that actually comes up for Hindus, and that usually is in March or April, depending on which region you're from. You also have the various gods that you celebrate. For example, Krishna, and he has a festival called Gokulashtami to celebrate his birth. Ganesha has a birthday that's celebrated. So there are many festivals in India. And then there's a big 9-day festival called Navaratri, which is to celebrate all the 3 goddesses for learning, for money, and for war.
2 of the main religious festivals across the school year or calendar year would be Christmas and Easter. Interestingly enough, I always think that Easter is the most important religious festival, although the celebration is often greater for Christmas, where Christmas tends to be a celebration where family will get together and there will be a sharing of gifts, both giving and receiving. It's a lovely occasion, and I think the receiving should be just as important as the giving, but also spending time with family and friends at that time is really, really important. Easter to me is a really, really important religious festival because without Easter, the faith would not exist.
What is one thing about your religion that you think everyone should know or understand better?
I think one of the most important things about faith, I might answer with 2 points here if that's all right. But so the first one is about forgiveness. And I think sometimes people can forget when they're a member of a faith community that not everybody shares the faith, and also that some people within that faith community, we're not always perfect and sometimes we make mistakes. And I think we know that our Lord would forgive us, and therefore we every day should spend time trying to think about how to forgive other people and then help them on the path, whatever path that might be for them. And then the second part that I think is really, really important about being a member of the Roman Catholic faith, and I'm sure many faith communities, is about charity and having that wish all of the time to give back. And it's a real pleasure leading a Catholic school because it allows you to have opportunities to collect for various different charities, and it gives young people and staff in the school an opportunity to give to those who are less fortunate, and also to encourage people to give for long living as they leave school and into their adult life as well.
One of the main things I would say are that in Islam there are 5 key pillars that we follow. The 5 key pillars include declaration of faith, praying 5 times a day, also giving charity is very important, fasting, and the final one is obviously attending pilgrimage once in your lifetime at least.
It's very much centered towards nature worship and nature. So, for example, a lot of Hindus are vegetarian, but there are some who do eat meat. And the ones who do eat meat, we don't eat beef or pork. But when you do eat meat, it's not every day of the week. So we're almost flexitarian. And I think the reason behind that is to make sure that we are watching our environment and not just eating all the animals up. In fact, there's a couple of months in the year when all Hindus turn vegetarian for the whole 2 months, and I think it's more to do with preservation of life, and that is what we actually do. So Hinduism is more than a religion. It's more like nature worship and preserving the environment you're living in.
Sometimes people think that Catholicism is quite exclusionary, and what I mean by that is that some people maybe aren't welcome, or that there's particular groups of people that can't be involved in the faith. But I think that Catholicism teaches us that God loves everybody, and that everybody should feel that they are welcome and that they can and should have a relationship with God.
How do you think Interfaith Week contributes to fostering understanding and respect among others different faith and communities?
So I think Interfaith Week is really important in allowing our community within the Holyrood to come together and consider differences that we might have between our faiths, but also the similarities, and try to develop some understanding, and make sure that everybody feels valued in our school.
It's a privilege for me to celebrate and understand other cultures in Holyrood Secondary. It isn't just about my faith, it's about world religions, not just my own. And for me, it can foster a greater sense of connection within the school community and the outside community. This is why I love teaching in Holyrood, and it's a privilege to be exposed to other cultures in the school, working alongside other colleagues of other faith and learning from them. It's also a comfort for me to know where you belong in a community, and it gives a real connection, which is vitally important for me, in order just to travel through life.
Interfaith Week is really, really good way for every one of us to understand each other's cultures. We all have our differences, but we also have common things. Everybody understands that you do whatever you do for your religion, and everyone understands that everyone does things differently. So that's nice. The other thing is every religion always centers around cultural things like music and dance, clothes, kind of arts and crafts that go with it, food. That's a great way of celebrating a particular culture. So I feel that Interfaith is great for bringing people together just to understand each other, and for us to know we're all different, but you know what, we all belong together.
I think it's really, really important that we do celebrate interfaith in all areas of Scotland, but I think in particular in the school community in which we're in. One of the privileges for me is to work on a daily basis with people of very different faiths and to learn about faiths. And Interfaith Week isn't the only time in the year that we can share that information, but it is a time where we can put a focus on different religions of all members of the school community and allow us to see differences in the faiths, but also similarities, because the faiths that people have, generally speaking, all share a lot of contributions, and it's really about people aspiring to something greater than just themselves.
I think understanding each other's religions and being tolerant and respecting each other's religions are really, really important, and really to make ourselves the world a better place by being more tolerant and having a community believing in just peace and happiness, and I think that's really important.